All right, guys, we're in chapter 10, driving in rural areas. That is the areas pretty much around us. We live in a rural area in Pittsburgh, Frontenac. So this is opposite of what we just went over in chapter 9 on the urban, which was like Kansas City, Joplin area. So driving in a rural area. Roadways are made of many different materials. As we know, ours is gravel. We got chat, we've got asphalt, we've got concrete, dirt. There's all kinds of different roads. You see this picture here. It is asphalt covered in mud and dirt, but that's the roads we work on. If you notice, some of them have no shoulders. Some have narrow ones. They can have wide ones. In this case, we have ditches with culverts and all kinds of different items that we got to worry about. At night, it is difficult to see. We lack light. Most of the time we drive with our high beams, look for deer, but it is difficult to see. One thing I don't know if I have it later in this video, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now. But if you're coming on this road and there's another car coming and they have their lights at night and you're blinded from the other cars coming, what you need to do is glance at the right edge of the road. So instead of looking straight, you want to look at the right edge of the road and kind of guide your right tire towards it. If you're along that right edge, you should be safe. Again, sometimes there's a white line. If you look at this photo here, there's no white line, so you're looking for that dirt edge. So keep your eyes on that, looking straight ahead, but on the right side of the road. That'll keep you away from those lights to blind you. Okay. Speeds. Speeds are critical for safe rural driving. Many of the roads have a speed limit of 55. If you think about the roads for the United States, the law is 65, but in rural areas, most of them will have a speed limit of 55, depending on the size of the road. There is difference between the safe speeds and posted speeds. Posted speeds are the legal limit, but safe speeds depending on the road condition of the vehicle or of the road at that time. So make sure you understand safe speeds are different than posted speeds. Okay, so when you're driving in rural areas, you do need to make sure you understand that when you're driving, you need to understand how fast you need to go. On my road that I live on, it's very narrow. The speed limit's 55, and there's places that I want to slow down because there's always deer. So I tend to be more on edge. I slow down a little bit going through that area. So the most important part of driving is you, the driver, understanding places that you're at. For example, gravel roads, there's no speed limit. So it's 55 for most roads. I would not go 55 on a gravel road. Okay. I would probably go more 30 to 35 max. And if you don't want to, I mean, you can go as low as you want. There's no minimum on those things. So obviously controlling your speed is more difficult when you get faster. So that's why we want to make sure we understand the speeds. Traffic control signs, we went over signs already. So I'm just kind of brief through this. It gives us the example of hazards ahead of us. Most of these are used just to kind of show something's coming up. On our roads, we see a lot of no turns or no passing zones. So that's kind of the things that we want to focus on here. And obviously that stop sign, we got to use those. Roadside hazards. On our roads for the rural areas, we have our roadside hazards may be closer to us. Look at this photo. This is a real road. There's a tree just feet off of the road. Okay, that's very, very common. There's no shoulder on this one. So when we look at the hazards on our roads, they they're almost everywhere. Okay, and they're usually old roads that we drive on, so they're not up to date with all the barriers, the shoulders, and so on. So just kind of understand that shoulders may be uneven. Okay, when you go off the road, it might be a drop of 3-4 inches. We're gonna have bridges. We have bushes, which animals and dogs hide behind the bushes. So kind of understand when we're driving in rural areas, rural highways, they tend to present lots more roadside hazards. Okay, so when we apply this IPD process we learned earlier, rural driving typically involves driving at high speeds on the highways. The faster you drive, the greater you're going to have a chance of severe collision. I mean, these are all common sense, so you're going to have less time to identify these situations. Here's just a nice little photo of a roundabout. We will get to a roundabout later, but when you're in the roundabout, you are the person in charge. When you're waiting to get in, you're always yielding to the person coming from the left. Okay, and we'll talk more about that later. Surge patterns, again, 12 to 15 seconds. You're going to look down the road 12 to 15 seconds. We've talked about this before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Driving on 2 lanes. This is where our rural areas. Driving to Fort Scott is this way. It's probably one of the worst roads, in my opinion, around here. But you need to slow down before in a curve. You can't really see it. There's not, I don't think this is it, but before a curve, you're going to have a sign that happens about 250 feet out to 700 feet telling you what to slow your car down. That is not a limit. It's a recommendation. Okay. That means is you probably should follow the directions. Now, when you see that sign, you need to slow to the speed that it says before entering the curve. Okay. Don't wait until you get to the curve and then try to slow down. Your inertia is going to throw you off the road. I've seen many of my friends and family and just people I know that have went off the road on a curve just because of this. Okay, so when you're driving in normal conditions, follow a little bit more, 4 seconds behind the car. I know last one we said 3, but 4 is a good following distance when you have narrow roads, because on these roads that are narrow, most of the time you don't have a good out. You don't have a good going off the shoulder. Some of our ditches could be culverts, which is not a good thing to hit. Trees. In this picture, obviously you go on the right, you're probably not going to make it. So we want to stay back as far as possible. Multi-lane roads, think about in Frontenac, downtown Pittsburgh. Double yellow center lines means you can only turn left, you can't pass. When you're on a multiple lane road, you need to make sure you're always in the right lane. When we drive towards Arma by the dog track, when we're driving, we want to stay on the right side. We get into the left lane. If you look here in this photo, this left portion is we're going to drive to the right, get in the left just to pass some guy that's on the right, or we're going to go to the left lane so we can get into the middle lane, which you'll see that around Walmart. Passing, 3-step process. You're going to decide, you're going to prepare for it, then you're going to execute it. Before passing a vehicle, make sure you have enough room to return in the lane. Okay. It is illegal to pass 100 feet of an intersection or a railroad crossing. Curves, bridges are all on there. But if you notice in this car, you do not want to pass this double line. Now, obviously, this is a little different with a bicyclist. You want to go over. This is not illegal. You're not going to get a ticket for it, but you do want to pass far away from the biker if you possibly can. I got a short video.
Now let's move on to another passing scenario, one where there are more vehicular deaths than anywhere else. One of the most dangerous things drivers do every day is passing on a two-lane highway. High-speed head-on crashes occur more frequently under these conditions than any other road configuration. There are very specific rules to follow when passing on these types of roads. When deciding to pass another vehicle, there are three things we must be concerned with. First, is it legal? Second, is it safe? And third, can we make it? Keep in mind that it's illegal to pass on curbs and hills or in any other place where vision is limited. At intersections and railroad crossings, within 100 feet of a bridge or a tunnel, and where passing is prohibited by a solid double line or sign. These signs are called no passing signs that are in no passing zones, and they are in place to regulate where passing is allowed and prohibited. And this is how the markings look in a no passing zone. You never cross a solid yellow line in your lane unless you're turning. Don't confuse these lines with turn center lines. Turn center lines are roadways with a center lane for left turns in either direction of travel, and they may not be used for passing. Now, before you start to pass, let me help you with a little bit of passing etiquette. First, turn on your turn signal so everyone has a good idea of what you're planning. Next, check your rearview mirror to make sure nobody is passing you. Now be sure you have the space to overtake the car you're passing. Increase your speeds if necessary until you're securely around and in front of the car. Now put your signal back on, which conveys, excuse me, I want to get back in. Is that okay? After you've passed the other vehicle, if you can see their front tires in your rearview mirror, you've got enough room. And then, of course, you've moved over and you've successfully passed. Congratulations! Hey, don't forget to shut off that turn signal. You don't go around the world on the left, do you? Now, when other vehicles are trying to pass you, make it as easy and safe as possible for the other car to get around you. Stay in your lane, but move as far right as you safely can. When another car attempts to pass you, do not speed up. If you have doubts, don't make a pass. If you have any doubt at all about having the time and space to make a pass, don't even try it. Never attempt to pass on the right by driving off the paved portion of the highway. There are times when you will need to pass on the right, like when the car ahead of you has slowed to make a left turn, or if it's stopped on the highway, or if it's disabled. The shoulder of the road should be used anytime it's necessary to avoid a collision. You can also use the shoulder to swerve to a stop, or in case of an emergency.
Okay, so again, a little cheesy video, but it talks good about certain things. And, oops, I do have one more. This is kind of fun. Again, this is student production, so bear with the videos they chose. Man, this is kind of fun. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about is oncoming traffic. Meeting oncoming traffic can be very dangerous, so make sure if there is oncoming traffic, you need to have in the video it talked about going over the shoulder. When you see slow-moving vehicles or a stop vehicle, check for the rear to see before you can pass. At night, you can also look for mailboxes, reflectors, indication of driveways. I know when I come home to my house, it's almost pitch black. There's 3 or 4 houses, so the one thing that I have to look for is my neighbor has a nice reflector on their driveway, which means mine's next, which is kind of nice to have some indicator of where things are. One thing that I do want to talk shortly about is in rural areas, one thing that we have to worry about is tractors. When tractors are on the highway, just know they're going very slow. So when you're coming up on them going at 55, 60 miles an hour, you need to make sure you're able to slow down way ahead of time because they will creep up on you extremely fast. All right, go ahead and stop the video, take the quiz, pass 5 out of 5, then move on to chapter 11. See you then.